Welcome back!
Hey guys, glad that you can join this episode. In this one we are going to create ripples. Now in the previous episode we've created the rain, but what is a rain without ripples? So let's get started with the next episode. And we're going to start by creating a P emitter and a P render. So let's think about this for a moment. The ripples are supposed to be on the ground's surface, so it makes perfect sense to use the ground itself as an emitter. To use the mesh or the ground as an emitter, we do the same as we did with the bounce tool. Just select the P emitter, go to the region tab and select mesh. Then we grab the displace 3D and plug it into the P emitter. Already you can see some particles are being emitted. Let's take a look at the region options here. At the moment it is set to use the mesh's volume to emit particles. In our case, we want the particles to be on the surface. So change this to surface. Now you don't need to worry about these settings here, they're good. So swing back to the controls. Increase the particle number to 60 and the lifespan to 30. And then the lifespan variance to 4, just to give a little bit randomness to the whole thing. Now what we get are particles right on our ground, but we don't want boring dots, we want ripples. And the easiest way to create ripples is probably using sprites. So let's do that. Bring in an ellipse mask and hook it into a background. So let's drop this into the viewer and select the background tool and set the resolution to 128 by 128 and of course float 16. Good. Let's have a look at the mask. Let me view it with the alpha. Now our mask is solid, a filled circle. For our ripples we just want an outline though, so how to do that? Simply uncheck solid here and increase the border width. Ctrl K to hide the controller. Go to the background tool and set it to white. Now we're gonna add an animation. Go to frame 0 and select the ellipse mask and bring back the controller. Now grab this controller right here and scale it down. And now we want to animate this, and when you change the radius you can see that it's those two values here that are being changed. Now we want to animate those, so right click on both of them sliders and choose animate. Go to frame, let's say 50, and we pull this all the way out, just so it almost touches the borders. And at frame 0 we're gonna arm the level here as well. Then go back to frame 50 and reduce the level to 0. And let me play this back. Now it looks pretty good. But let's bring this further. So we grab a copy of this ellipse, paste it in and hook it into the other ellipse. And now we're gonna go to the middle of our animation, frame 25. And let's say this ellipse is the inner ripple. We open up the spline editor. Check the width and the height here, and what we want to do is we want to offset these keys. So select them and click once here on the time button until it changes to T offset. And we enter a value of, let's say, 10 frames. That looks quite nice. But at the beginning now, the inner ripple is still. We could fade this out until it starts moving. So first check the level here to display the level curve. And now you can see that the level goes from 1 down to 0. So go to the frame where it starts moving, right click on the level and choose Set Key. Then we go back to frame 0 and bring the level down to 0. Now it fades in. But perhaps it's a little too fast. So we can offset the first key here by, let's say, 2 frames.
You're telling me take a whole roll.
Or maybe 2 more. Additionally, you can grab the controller here and make it even a little bit smaller. So let's play this back and I will hide the controller again. So this isn't looking too shabby, but maybe the inner ripple could be a little softer. What do you think? And we can change this very easily by changing the value of this key here. And I think a value of 0.5 should be good. So we got a nice ripple going on here, but we can bring this further. I think it could move faster, so let's speed this up. Select both ellipse masks and go back to the spline editor. And select all keys by using the rectangle or just hit Ctrl A. Now you can use the time stretch tool or the box tool to alter the keys. And if you try to stretch the keys now, we see that some keys are not being affected. This is because on the left side here, some tracks are still frozen. So let me just undo and then I'm gonna check these here or unfreeze them and reselect all keys. I'm gonna stretch this down to about frame 25. So here at the bottom, you can see at which frame you're at. Let's replay. There you go. That's a much better speed. So let's keep this. Great. So how can we use this animated ripple now with the particle system? Oh, that's too easy. View and select the P emitter. And swing over to the Style tab. Now here, where we set line before, this time we set it to bitmap. And simsalabim, this slot here appeared. Now watch what happens when I drag this background tool into this slot. Bang! Here are our ripples assigned to our particle system. Now if we play this back, you can see that at the moment all the sprites are playing at the same time and then just disappear. Let's change that, because it's boring. So select the P emitter and now here where it says animate, we have a drop down list and it's set to over time. Now what the over time does is it basically takes the ripple sprite animation and just plays it through once using the ripple's original time range. And that for each particle at the same time, which results in this uniform animation we got going on here. So we don't want that. We want it to be random over our whole time range. So let's see what happens if we switch this to particle age. There. Now the ripple is played dependent on the particle's age. It means every time a particle is born, a new ripple is being displayed. In other words, the ripple start frame is not 0 anymore, but the frame where a new particle is born. So the next thing you might have noticed is, no matter which angle you view this from, all ripples are always facing the camera. Let me show you what I mentioned before. So let's go to the P-emitter controls, and down here in the rotation controls, always face the camera is checked. So uncheck this since we want the ripples to lie flat on the ground. But now the ripples are standing on our ground and you can do some badass motion graphics with this. But we don't do motion graphics now, so let's rotate this to 90 degrees around the x-axis. Here we go. And now if you encounter some flickering here, it's basically because the light is turned on. And those sprites are actually overlapping each other, causing this flickering. So we can simply turn off the lighting here, we don't need it, and we're good. Now great, this is looking good, maybe a little bit too big, them ripples, but now we surely want to see how this looks on our ground surface. So for that we need to render this out. Before we do that, let's change the size settings here, and we change the size to 0.02 and the size variance to 0.0325. And now let's render this texture out. Now, since this is going to be a texture, we're gonna create a camera which will be facing down from the top. Create a merge 3D, or let's just grab this one here, hook them in together, and now look, if we view the merge 3D here, hey, I can't see the camera. Where's the damn camera? No guys, no panic. This is what I have explained before. Remember when I deactivated the controls of the ellipse mask? Yeah. So let's turn it back on and then the camera will be there again. So with the camera selected, swing over to the transformation tab and let's rotate the X rotation to -90. And we bring this up to 2.0116. Let's look through the camera. What the heck? Actually, let's just hook the camera straight into our P-render. And I'm gonna reuse this renderer here. Let me view this. Here, make sure to deactivate the vector channel. We don't need it this time. And I'm gonna turn off the alpha display and turn on normalize so that we can see this a little bit better. Now, since I want to combine this with our normal bump texture, we better set it to the same resolution. So let's change it. Set the width to 3008 and the height to 2000. And let's not forget to turn off the normalize button again. Okay, great, time to combine this with our ground. Let's hook the renderer into the ripples out. And this one here as well. And we're gonna copy the ripples wireless node. Grab the navigator and move to the first ground pass, the ground reflect gloss. View it. And if we go up, this is where we have created our bump map, so it makes sense to mix our ripples in here. And right after the create bump map tool, append a merge node. And on the left side up here, you can see there's a box waiting for you. It is named ripples, which means we paste our ripples wireless node in here.
Careful, he means paste as an instance. What was that? Control-Shift-V?
And of course, before we can combine this with our bump map, we need to make this a bump map as well. So append a create bump map and view it. Again, float 16 and set the height scale to 37. There. Now we can hook it into the merge. And normal maps, remember, are merged using the overlay blend mode. Now let's see how this looks. View the renderer. We should be able to spot some of them ripples.
Oh, yeah, I found some.
Shut up, you son of a bitch! I found it first!
Oh, the ripples for everyone there. What are you hitting me for?
Yeah, it could be a little too strong though, so let's reduce the strength. And of course we do that in the create bump node. And we reduce the height scale to, let's say, 15. Great, let's make a preview cause we need to see this animated in order to make final decisions.
Excuse me?
Who the heck are you?
I'm a Viking.
A what?
A Viking.
A Viking?
Yes.
Then get the hell out of here. This is for pirates.
Now this is looking very sexy. I think we can move on and combine the ripples with the other two passes, the reflect extra and the reflect pass. And now that is too easy. Just copy the merge that we used to combine our bump maps over here 2 times, here and here. Shift insert it, and now I have created a router here. And from this router, branch out and hook it into this merge, create another router here, and from here branch out into this merge. You can now disable this merge, go down to the renderer and view it, then switch the merge back on just to compare it. And the same with the reflect pass. Well guys, before I call this episode done, I'm gonna make a preview and I'll be back in a second. Back! I've made a preview of our last node, so come closer man, let's look at this together. This is looking really sexy. So guys, thank you for watching me. My name is Vito. I'll see you soon. Until then, enjoy what you're doing.